Welcome to the Embodied Aquarian Age podcast. This is your host, Emily Trinkus, and today I'm so excited to talk with Sol Luckman. Sol is a pioneering visual artist, award-winning novelist and humorist, and best-selling author of nonfiction books on health, spirituality, and consciousness. Sol, together with his partner Lee, developed the Regenetics method to activate DNA. And if you're wondering what the heck that means, we are going to get into it. Sol, thank you so much for being here and welcome to the podcast.
Oh, thank you for having me, Emily. It's a pleasure.
Great. I'm just really excited to get into DNA and Regenetics and healing, all of that. But for those who are new to your work, can you just share a little bit about your background and how you came to focus on DNA and develop this, the Regenetics method?
So vaccines nearly killed me years ago when I was in graduate school. I got a very serious, what might be described as an autoimmune illness from having received travel vaccines. And I ended up with, a huge laundry list of 30 plus symptoms of fibromyalgia and chronic fatigue, that type of symptomology, as well as many other strange, bewildering symptoms. And I spent years and a fortune trying to get well, like so many people. I know I've heard this story over and over again. People come to the work that I do and say, "Oh, your story is my story. I can't believe, I've encountered someone who went through all of the craziness just trying to figure out what was going wrong and then figure out what to do about it." And my healing path actually started out with my serious healing path really started out with Qigong, some Eastern notions of energy, moving through allergy elimination techniques, and then into sound healing and looking at DNA from a scientific, esoteric, and shamanic mixed perspective in order to understand what DNA is in a multidimensional sense and what it's doing, and also how to work with it for healing and transformational purposes.
Wow. Yeah. And can you talk about what is DNA anyway? And along with that, what is what's called junk DNA? That just, that doesn't make any sense to me that we would have junk in any part of our body, but what in your view, what is that?
Well, junk DNA is a name that very, I would say, lost, quote unquote, scientists gave to parts of the DNA that didn't seem to be doing anything in terms of coding for proteins and creating our bodies. And doing other related, very physical functions. And so fortunately, the whole narrative around junk DNA over the years has been kind of eroding, and more functions have been discovered in what was previously thought to be sort of dormant DNA. And that's certainly encouraging. In terms of what DNA is, it depends on what perspective you want to utilize. DNA is, of course, a molecule, and it is also I prefer to think of it as a kind of interface between the physical and energetic realms, so that we can actually utilize in a variety of different ways for consciousness expansion, for healing, for upgrading our energy, for detoxifying our bodies, all kinds of things. We can actually stimulate DNA to sort of speak to our energy bodies, and then our energy bodies can then speak back to the DNA and instruct our bodies what to do to get well.
Well, that is a very different view of DNA than what we're typically taught in conventional medicine, right? Because the idea that seems to be propagated is, you're born with what you've got, you've inherited various diseases from your family, and that's that. So often DNA is talked about something more that's like, that's just what it is, and there's nothing you can do about it. So this is a really, pretty radically different view that there's a way to actually engage with DNA and to activate it. And yeah, can you say more about that process?
Yeah, sure. I mean, I would start by saying that you have genetic dogma, DNA dogma, that sees DNA as a kind of protein coding machine. It's all mechanical, and it is subject to hereditary laws and that kind of thing. And increasingly, that entire notion is being debunked. And it really started being debunked by people like Bruce Lipton and other scientists who studied what they called epigenetics, which is the study of the environmental impacts on DNA. And in that way of seeing how genetics works, there was a move away from the primacy of the cell, of the nucleus of the cell, and the primacy of DNA towards more of an interactive situation going on with genetic material or proteins in our cell membranes that would interact with the environment, which means that, you know, the brain kind of moved into an environmental interface in this model, and the brain of the cell, what's actually causing things to happen or directing the show here. And also in epigenetics, you know, it leaves room for that entire science leaves room for consciousness, for the power of your mind, your attitude, beliefs, etc., to impact the way your genetic expression occurs. What I was fortunate to get tapped into was this idea that even outside of or beyond the realm of genetics, there's what I like to call metagenetics, which is this idea that actually, in essence, DNA is an energy itself. It's not really a molecule. It starts out as a kind of energy, and the DNA molecule is in constant interface with its blueprint, its sort of holographic or energetic blueprint that controls both epigenetic and genetic expression, ultimately. So we could talk about all kinds of things related to that, but one simple one is that in genetic expression, a lot of epigenetics focuses on the mind, and a lot of you can think about that in terms of the power of positive thinking, Norman Vincent Peale, the ability of our attitudes to impact our relationship to our environment. But I realized that beyond all of this, there was a realm of the power of positive feeling that was more related to who we really are at a core spiritual level. And when we tap into that, and there are different ways of tapping into that, we can actually achieve very miraculous types of healing and transformation in short order, going beyond just a simple kind of stimulus response relationship to the environment into a realm that's actually being directed by spirit.